He's mega sized with mega sound. Today we're going to be having a look at the new released Mezco Toyz Friday the 13th mega figure with sound, Jason Voorhees. Not only is this a jumbo-sized crystal-like killer, but you can also press a button on the back of his torso and Jason will play his iconic sound effect. So how big is this mega-sized Jason Voorhees? With the tape measure at the bottom and right to the top of his head, which is about there, the figure stands at a very impressive, very imposing 14.7 inches in height, which, translating that to centimeters, the figure stands at 37.4 centimeters. For his accessory, a mega-sized Jason, of course, has to come with a mega-sized machete. The machete is a rather thick plastic accessory that can be fit into his hand. It looks like it has been cast in black plastic with some silver rivets painted in on the handle portion and a really nice metallic blade. Like I said, the blade is really thick, so it's not a case where you're going to run your finger across it and cut yourself. And a generous amount of blood has been splashed. I don't even want to say sprinkled, but splashed across the bottom portion here. He clearly has hacked and slashed his way through several different camp counselors, giving him this sort of effect. Now, he does have the option to hold it, but from what I can see, he only can hold it in the one hand. It's best, actually, when you are putting it into his hand, to put it in on the angle. Don't put it in this way. It's a little bit more trickier. Put it on the side. And then from there, you can twist it, and it'll stay completely in place. And then you have a good enough posability with his arm that you can move the machete left and right, and up and down. I guess what we could do is talk a little bit about his posability, because there really isn't a whole lot on mega-sized Jason. He's sort of the equivalent of Mezco Toyz' offerings when it comes to the Living Dead dolls. Very similar sort of posability. So we'll move his arm just out of the way. His head is on a ball joint, so you can rotate the head side to side, up, down, and all the way around. I do like the fact that you can angle the head slightly left and right too. Just kind of gives him a nice kind of menacing, imposing look to him. His arms hinge out, not really much though, about there. They also rotate around. Of course, they're going to get a little stuck around the shoulder area, just kind of be careful of that. And then they also rotate at the hand. Let me just show you. I'll move it up just a little bit so you can see it. You can rotate it at the hand right there as well. He doesn't have waist swivel. His legs don't hinge outward. You can only really move them forward and back. And then he has posability in the feet. You can rotate his very nicely sculpted boots all the way around. Mezco's release of mega-sized Jason here does have a rather stylized look to his face. I think it works rather well. Again, looking at the figure and looking at just his proportions and like his hands, for example, really reminds me of the Living Dead dolls. And really, they could have almost marketed this guy as a Living Dead doll version of Jason, which I think would also have made him a little bit smaller by probably like 2 inches or so. The head sculpt, though, is really nice. I do like it. I would imagine, based on looking at the figure here, he is Jason from Friday the 13th Part 3, as he certainly has no gash yet in his forehead, and certainly, you know, his mask has remained somewhat unscathed chevron-wise. It's not to say that his mask isn't scratched up, however. As you can see, there's quite a lot of etchings and just like carvings into the side of his mask. Mask is a interesting shade of different colors. Normally I would look at Jason's mask and kind of think grays, I think beiges. Here though, we've almost got like light, almost in like a yellow that they've airbrushed over top of the front of the mask. It almost seems as if, like I said, there's a light source hitting the front of his mask that it's getting this additional yellow. It's actually really nice the way they've done that. Airbrushed some nice darker silver around the outer areas of his mask, even like around the areas of his eyes have been given a nice airbrushing there of gray. Like the eyes, I have to admit. Eyes are slightly offset. He's kind of got that Shannon Doherty look going on there. Oh, yeah, so mean, Shannon Doherty. But his one eye is a little higher, his other eye a little bit lower. And there's a little bit of reflection actually that's coming off of the eyes. They have done a nice job of, even though they've detailed the eyes, which gets a little lost with the darker color, it's that same darker color that kind of has that effect of making the eyes look a little bit more recessed, making the eyes look a little as if they're pushed further back than what they actually are. In case you are wondering though, no, the mask is not removable. The mask is completely molded to his quite deformed head sculpt here. Of course, he's got the very ballooned, pillowed out head sculpt of the mongoloid head that Jason would be having in the movie. One ear completely untouched, unaffected. However, the other ear on the other side, you can see really has not grown its way out yet. It's slightly a deformed looking ear. The texturing on the strapping that houses Jason's mask to his head looks good. Again, part of me wishes that the mask could be removable. I know when it comes to the more simplistic, stylized figures like this, you really can't expect masks to come off because, of course, then they'd have to sculpt a brand new headpiece underneath all that. And things like the darker area in the eyes, this section right here, would certainly stand out. It would be as like Michael Keaton taking off the mask in Batman Forever, Batman Returns, where all of a sudden does the eyeshadow go on his eyes? The same thing would have also worked here with Jason. You simply can't just take the mask off. This would be affected as a result of that. As for Jason's outfit, he has a forest green shirt, which does actually have snaps. I can show you that in a second. A working pocket. This other pocket is stitched shut. And a pair of khaki colored pants. I know, debatable, the coloring is not quite there, but rather clean, actually, both the shirt and the pants. As for his shoes, which are actually closer to being boots, if I just bring the cuff of the pants slightly further up, the boots have fully sculpted in laces, a nice stitching that's attaching the sole tread to the bottom of the boots. Again, boots are very nicely sculpted, but there's not a whole lot of dirt on this guy. His shirt, his pants, otherwise are quite clean, even like his hands. Okay, maybe not his hands. His hands have a little bit of dirt on them, but he's definitely not a dingy looking Jason, which again would lend itself a little bit more to him being Part 3's Jason. Like I said, you can unbutton his shirt. I don't really know why you would want to undress Jason, but underneath he's got himself a short-sleeved white top. Very clean, very pristine, much like the rest of his outfit here. Of course, I know you're going to want to see the sound effects or hear the sound effects on Jason. He does also come with an instruction guide. Not that you really need to know how to change it, but it does tell you at the very least which type of batteries you would want to use when you are ready to change them out. They uses 3 L115 or 1L11 54F batteries. Doesn't seem like the regular. Usually I think the regular batteries are 2032 batteries. These ones take the 1154F batteries. Pretty straightforward. You really don't even need the instruction guide to change the batteries. Just kind of hold on to that, I suppose, if you want to know what batteries to change for. But in the meantime, Mezco Toyz does include batteries. We just go ahead and flip up his shirt. I guess if you wanted to, you can unbutton the shirt just to make it a little bit looser, easier to get to. And then he has a Velcro strip from the top all the way down to the bottom of his pants. Just open that up. And inside is your battery compartment. Now, interesting though, I guess here though, it says 3 times 1.0 1.5 volt batteries, or LR44 batteries. It's not quite the same as what the instructions have indicated. Let me just look at the instructions again. Yeah, it should actually be not L1154F batteries, but it should be LR44 batteries, which makes a little bit more sense. There's an on, there's an off, and there's a try me switch. There's also a speaker compartment up the top, and your main button is right there. When you do get this guy, he is set to try. In all honesty, though, between the try and the on, I don't really notice a difference between the two. I'll switch it to try me so that you can see, and then I'll switch it back to on, and then we'll try it again. You just want to press the button on the back, and I guess it makes more sense. We'll spin Jason around with his open shirt, and we'll go ahead and press the button. And that's try me. Let's go ahead and open up his shirt again. We'll switch it to full on. There we go. And we'll press the button again. As you can see, there is absolutely no difference between the try me and the on. They could have really just left it as one on and off switch and not have the function in the middle of the try me. Now, one thing though, if he had had a sensor, say in the front, a sensor right underneath his mask that would have triggered the audio, that would have been a completely different story altogether, and that would have justified why they would have had the try and the on. But again, both of them work the exact same way. Both the audio is exactly the same way. It really doesn't technically need to have both the try and the on switch. One thing I also want to mention about the audio for Jason is it is interrupting audio. In other words, when you press the button, you can repeatedly press the button and it will continue to cut and interrupt itself. Let me just again press the button. It is right there. Now say again, if I press that button, but while it's playing, I press the button again, see what it does. It certainly would be a way, thank you, it would certainly be a way to annoy friends, but you don't have to wait for it to play its entire track. Luckily, it's not a very long track either. I feel as if with it being an on option compared to a try me button option, the on button could have at very least added a few extra phrases of maybe a few things from Pamela Voorhees saying, "Good Jason," or something along those lines. I really wish he could have done a little bit more than just the ch-ch-ch, ah. But still, for what you're getting for this particular release of Jason, I think he's fun. He's stylized, which is really neat. And he has the audio effects, which is always an added bonus as well. I like Mezco's release of Friday the 13th Mega Figure Jason with sound. That's a whole mouthful to say. But I do think he's a little on the expensive side. Prices will fluctuate, of course, depending on where you're buying him from, United States versus Canada and overseas. But I picked this guy up at my local comic book store, I think for about $110 or $115. If you compare that to the Living Dead Dolls release of Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy Krueger, which also so happened to have audio track, you'll remember, Freddy could cycle through more than just one phrase. He cycled through, I think, about 3 or 4 different phrases. He was a little bit smaller, but he was only smaller by a couple of inches or so, and he had similar posability to Jason. That Freddy Krueger I was able to find at my local store for $60. So it does beg the question, why is this Jason so much more for what you're getting with him? He does have an accessory, but I don't think that justifies having an added cost of over $30 more. He's a couple of inches taller than the Living Dead Dolls release of Freddy Krueger, but still, this Jason could have easily fit in a smaller scale by only 2 inches smaller. Because I think the Living Dead Dolls are about 12 inches. Jason could have been a 12-inch tall figure doing the exact same thing as what he's currently doing now with one audio track and be charged for the same price point as a Living Dead doll. To ask for an extra $30 or $40 in the case of, I think it's a $60 price point to, again, a $110 price point, you're almost paying double for a figure that's only really 2 inches taller and plays less audio than his counterpart Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy Krueger from the Living Dead doll. Again, I feel like this guy could have been a Living Dead doll Jason, which his face sculpt would be different. It would look a little bit more like a doll, but the figure would also be a lot cheaper. I really can't justify that this figure be $110. Prices, again, may vary from store to store, but this is only when I'm doing these reviews, I'm basing them off the prices that I'm picking the figures up for. It just so happens that I picked up Jason here at my local store for $110, so I have to factor that in when I'm having looks at these figures. I think the price point is a little too high. That's just my honest opinion. I like the look of Jason. I like the super stylized feelings of Jason. I really like that he's kind of a cute version of Jason. Wish he could have come with maybe a few extra accessories. And at the very least, for $110, probably could have come with a few extra audio clips as well, above and beyond just his trademark calling card, if you will. Still, pick this guy up if you're a big fan of Jason, but maybe see if you can find him at a cheaper price than anything less than $100. I would say is worth picking up this figure. Maybe even if he was an $80 price point figure, probably would be a little bit more worth it than over $100. And then tax, of course, and all that good stuff as well. Either way, though, today we were having a look at the Mezco Toyz. This was the Friday 13th Mega Jason Voorhees with sound. Decent figure, a little disappointing on the sound, really disappointing on the price point. If you guys want to go back and have a look at some of my other Mezco reviews, whether it be the Living Dead dolls or just Mezco as a whole, there's playlists on this channel that you can check out and watch at your viewing pleasure. And while you're also at it, after you finish watching these videos, I would really appreciate if you guys head over to the home page and just check out the section of videos that I have. It's the best way to guarantee that if there's anything you may have missed along the way, you'll find them all in the videos section. You can hit the bell notification as well, but I think 100% your best bet is the home page. More videos, guys, will be also coming your way, so certainly stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.